Hello and welcome to the Living Your Best Life webinar series presented by the Huntsman World Senior Games. This is a monthly webinar that covers a wide variety of topics that are designed to help you live your best life. My name is Kyle Case, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Chief Executive Officer of the Huntsman World Senior Games. And now for our expert presenter. Stephanie Parrish has been a radio personality for over 5 years. Currently, she and her co-host, Doug Crockett, host an international show on the Voice America Network. It's called the Vitality Health Show, Hope, Healing, and Miracles. For the past 10 years, Stephanie has owned and operated hyperbaric oxygen and light centers. And between the two businesses, Stephanie has the privilege of experiencing and being a part of miracles every single day. So, Stephanie, we want to welcome you. If you'll click on your camera, there you are. It's good to see you. How are you?
Good morning. So happy to be here. I'm doing wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we're excited to spend some time with you and hear your story and learn from your message as well. I know that as we've talked, and in the title of your show, you talk a lot about miracles. I would like, if you could, for you to take just a second and explain to us your definition of what a miracle is.
That's such a good question, because as my co-host always says, when heaven intervenes in something that's going to change our lives, that becomes a miracle. And it can be a very small miracle, or it can be a very large miracle, or it can be a small miracle that turns into a large miracle. We just need to be able to look and see and recognize the miracles, just like Jeff calling me, asking me to be on this show. For me, I believe that is a huge miracle in my life, because as I'll tell you a little bit later in the story, Jeff doesn't even realize what an impact he had on me almost 7 years ago, inviting me to be part of the Huntsman Senior Games. And those are miracles. And I feel like with everything going on in the world right now, we need to learn to recognize them, even if they're small miracles. They're still miracles, and they're always out there. And what we do on our show is make sure that people remember that there is always hope. There's always hope in the healing, and that healing can be emotional, physical, financial, whatever kind it needs to be. There's always hope out there if we learn how to watch for the miracles, and they are always there.
I love it. Love it. Keeping our eyes open for those wonderful little things that happen in our life. I think that there's a huge message there.
Yes.
Well, Stephanie, we're excited to hear your story and again, hear your message. I'm going to turn the rest of the time over to you, and then we'll answer questions at the back end of the show. So, Stephanie, take it away.
Great. Thank you. I do want to mention just one of the miracles that happened to us yesterday. My husband and I were driving back here. We've been over in Phoenix for a week doing interviews and meeting people at the home office of Voice America. I've already been there, but they moved to new offices. And we always say a prayer before we leave and ask Heavenly Father to put a protection shield of bubble around us and help us be aware of what's happening, looking for different things. And we have become very used to doing that. And yesterday we had the opportunity, as we're pulling through little Wichita, Arizona, and this car just come blazing out of the parking lot, did not even see us. We were literally inches. He was inches from us. And one of those miracles, as we got through all of that, realizing we were pulling a trailer, we whipped over to the other lane. There was nobody in that lane. And there was a big semi in front of us, a big semi behind us, and cars everywhere, but there was nobody in that lane at that time. Had we had to stay in our lane, we would have been totally crunched. It would have been right on my side of the door, and it could have been really a tragic situation as we got through it and watched the guy whip out in front of the semi. Didn't get hit, but to cross the 5 lanes of highway there, we finally pulled over and said a little prayer of thanksgiving, knowing that this bubble of protection was put around us. And again, that was a miracle. So we have tried really hard to look for all the miracles that are happening every day. And as I said, when Kyle was talking with me, Jeff Hardy from the Huntsman Senior Games a number of years ago, probably about 7 years ago at this point in time, when I was living in Canada, he called and I was just deciding whether I should leave Canada, come back to the States. There was a lot of things happening that were not comfortable for me, a lot of things that were very difficult that I was going through. And at the time, I felt very much like my soul had been stripped down to nothing. And I needed to get back home and rebuild my life and rebuild my whole spirit and my soul and my everything. And I was trying to decide what to do. And Jeff had called up there to us in Canada and said, hey, we have got a booth for you at the Senior Games if you want it. There was a 3-year waiting list at that point in time. He said, I'll boot you ahead if you want this, because we really want you in the Senior Games and as a displayer, a booth. And at that time, I knew that that was another miracle that happened in my life. I wasn't learning to recognize them as much then as I do now, but that gave me the opportunity to pack up and come home. And literally within 3 weeks, I drove home from Canada, from Alberta, Canada to Pocatello, stayed a few days there with my mom. I was finishing getting my certification for my international light therapist certification. Stayed there for a few days, moved down to St. George, sight unseen. Again, I called my cousin, Renita Parrish, who's an incredible realtor down here. And I said, Renita, this is what I need. I need a place to stay. I don't have any credit. I've been in Canada for the last 3 years. I don't have any money. I'm coming off of a really difficult situation. I need a place to stay. I need this and I need this and this. And she called me back within a few minutes and said, I've got this for you, this for you, this for you, this for you. So you can come and take possession anytime. And I was like, wow, I've always recognized the hand of God in my life, but that was such a huge, huge thing for me. So within a week, I was packed up and headed down, knowing that I was going to start in the Senior Games. I believe they were on the 3rd of October. This was the 27th of September. And as I'm driving down there, I'm realizing I'm setting up a booth at the Huntsman Games for 10 days, and it's just me. And I'm going down there, moving into apartments, sight unseen. No idea. I had a couple of kids that lived down here. I had a cousin that lived down here, obviously, a sister that lived down here, but I had not been down to St. George to live. I'd passed through St. George or gone to Tuacahn and then gone on someplace else. So literally, I am going on a wing and a prayer. And I was pulling my little baby U-Haul with everything that I owned in my world into St. George. I had called a bunch of people in the church and said, I need help. And I think I had 27 people show up to move this one little tiny U-Haul. And as I'm driving down the street, the highway, I'm realizing I can't do this by myself. I can't do 10 days of the Huntsman Senior Games by myself, running the booth with all this equipment. And so I got on the phone and I called one of my friends in Canada, and I was just sobbing. I'd gotten about to, I don't know, Nephi, and I'm sobbing and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I can't do this by myself. And she's like, give me 2 days, I'll be there. And she got in her car and headed down. And then I got thinking, I need somebody else. I can't, it's going to take 4 or 5 of us to do this. So I called another friend of mine up in Airdrie, Canada, in Alberta, who's the expert on the light therapy. And it was through her I was taking this class. And I said, what do? I need help and I need more lights. And she's like, I'll catch a plane and I'll be down there. Again, another miracle. And then I thought, okay, I need somebody else that's an expert on hyperbaric. I'd been doing it for 3 years, but I could only be in so many places at one time. So I called one of my directors. He was actually one of the ones that got me involved in the hyperbaric, and he was in California. And I called him and I said, my chamber is going to be delivered the day the Huntsman Games start. And I need to have you here to help me get everything done. And he did. He got an airplane and flew up, and within 24 hours, I got into my apartment. I had all my stuff in boxes. I had 3 friends come. They just slept on the floor because we had nothing set up. I got my bed set up and boxes everywhere. And they helped me set up my house and the center and at the Huntsman Senior Games, and we just went for it, and we had a ball. And we were able to help, I think at that point in time, we helped about 300 plus athletes coming in and out of our lights and off of out of our chamber, our hyperbaric chamber. And they were all just giving us accolades of how well they did and how well they felt. And it became more a labor of love than anything. And it really was. And Jeff just changed my life. And I know when I got to about Cedar City, actually just past Cedar City, I was just coming down the mountain into St. George, and I was overcome with emotion. I had to pull over to the side of the road with my U-Haul behind me and just sobbed because I was so grateful for what was just happening in my life. I feel like that was such a turning point in my life. And it was at that point in time that I was able to start really recognizing what was happening in my life. I had always known that there was miracles in my life, but I'd never really focused on what they were. And that whole experience was a miracle, was absolutely a miracle. And from that point in time, I'm like, you know what? I got to have a clinic open if I'm going to be doing hyperbaric. And within a few days, Renita found me a clinic to go into with a massage therapist, and we were able to move right in there from the Huntsman Games. We moved everything over to the clinic, and the next Monday I started my clinic here in St. George, and we were able to do Vibrant U Hyperbaric Oxygen Light Center here for almost 6 years here in St. George. And it really literally changed my life. And about 2 years into that, I was able to be on the radio, the local radio here, and talk about all of the miracles I was seeing in my clinic through the light therapy and the oxygen and the microcirculation and the sauna and all the things that we were doing, literally life-changing. And one of those things was I had so many people come in that would give me a death date. And it's like, you know what? The only one that knows your death date is God. He's the only one that knows. So let's throw the death date out the window for a minute. And let's see what we can do to help your body naturally repair itself. And that's what we do. We just supplement the body with oxygen, light, nutrition, and see what the body can do. And so for the first 2 years of my radio show here, it was people talking about their miracles that had happened coming into the clinic. And it was just, you know, everybody's just wondering what about COVID, right? And I'm probably not supposed to say that word anymore, but that helped close my business. Unfortunately, it was a very sad situation. It was something I would never think to do. And I was just trying to find out why was this happening? Because there had to be another reason, a bigger reason, because there's no way I would have closed my clinic if I had a choice. And in that process, I was doing my radio show, and I had just had some beautiful people on talking about child suicide and talking about what was happening in the world with the kids, with all of the lockdowns and all the shutdowns. And Sherry Clark, amazing. I love her, and Jonathan, love them. They were on my show that day. And as they left to walk out, I literally heard a voice over my shoulder say, Stephanie, you need to take this bigger. And I'm like, take what bigger? And I'm like, you need to take your show bigger. And I'm like, how do I take my show out of the St. George market? And again, this was just absolutely a miracle that I was able to hear this voice. And so we decided to do a lot of fasting and praying and thinking about it and trying to figure out what we were supposed to do at that point in time. That was on a Thursday. And then on Monday morning, when I got to the office, there was an email there from Voice America Network. And I was taken back for a minute going, what is this? Anyway, it was an email asking if I would be interested in hosting on their international platform. And I was like, oh, that was good. That was good. Preparing me for that and helping me be ready. And so when I called them Monday afternoon, they did a small interview, and they said, you need to fill out all this paperwork. I did all this paperwork, tons and tons and tons of things I needed to do. They called me back on Friday. The executive producer did, and said that they had been listening to my shows on the local station for a number of months and wanted to offer me a host position on the international platform. And talk about an answer to a prayer, because that's exactly what it was. So within a couple months, I was on the international Voice America with my own show, owning my own content, being able to do what I wanted to do. That was a miracle, because now we are reaching people all around the world, and we have got about 11 different countries listening, as well as everywhere across the United States. And it has just been such a blessing for me to be able to be part of that. And then I'm going to kind of work backwards a little bit as we're talking, because I feel like the things that I have been through, every time I talk about something that I have been through, I find somebody else has been through it too, or somebody else is dealing with something similar and not really sure what direction to go. And in January, I guess it was July of last year, 2021, my cousin was at the LDS Film Festival, and she had met a gentleman named Doug Crockett at the film festival, and they called me and said, "You need to have this man on your show." I've been doing the show for about a year at that point in time, and they said he's got such an amazing miracle story. So as I interviewed Doug so strongly, the impression came, I need to work with this man. So after the show was over, we talked about his miracles that happened in his life, the miracles that had happened in my life. He lost a daughter to muscular dystrophy. He had multiple sclerosis. He's been through a lot, and he has seen miracles. And so as we got talking, first part of August, we started talking, and I said, you know what? We need to collaborate. And I was just getting ready to renew for the next year. And I thought, I need to bring him on as a co-host, because he has got connections like crazy too with miracles and many things that have happened with him. And he also has a network on YouTube called Miracles When Heaven Touches Earth. And as we were talking, I'm like, I need to change up my show a little bit, and we need to add miracles in there besides just hope and healing. And my belief is we have got to have hope in our healing. And that was why I titled it that, because we have got to know that there's always hope out there in our healing. And that is whether it is physical, emotional, spiritual, financial, whatever that needs to be in that healing, there is hope in that. And through miracles, and we see miracles every day. So I brought Doug on, and he says, I need to come and meet you in person. He was down in Lehigh. I was up in Southern Idaho. So he drove up there the first part of August, about the first week in August. He drove up to Montpelier, and he called me, goes, oh, by the way, I'm on my way to come and meet you. And as he came, he came and he called, he goes, oh, by my way, my wife wants to know where I'm staying. And I'm like, right here. We have a guest room. You stay right here with us. We got lots to talk about. And he goes, I kind of figured, but I wasn't sure. Anyway, it was just another one of those miracles. So he showed up. He got to meet my husband, Ken. We got to talk. Ken's been an amazing help with me in this, and as being he does everything mechanical, everything electronic. He used to be in marketing, directing, all that stuff. And so he knew what he was doing. I didn't, because I was always doing it at the radio show. Now I'm doing it from home. Anyway, Doug got to meet him, and we got to do a lot of talking, and it was just amazing. And we were ready to go the first part of September. That was our goal. Anyway, getting into other miracles and other tragedies in my life. Towards the end of August, Ken became very ill. And it was the situation that's going on right now. And within 5 days, he was gone. He had passed. And it was extremely difficult. Sorry, I'm going to get emotional. But it was like extremely difficult to lose him that fast. I'm like, what just happened here? Anyway, when he passed, it was so fast. And I had such amazing support from my family and friends from St. George, from Idaho, from Canada, from everywhere that I had lived. But yet there was a lot of challenges because of what it was that he had passed away from. Anyway, I was so grateful thinking back on that, the miracle of having Doug drive up there and meet us a week before my husband passed away. And it took me a few weeks after his funeral to get myself back together and the best I could. And again, the miracles happened because we were sitting there, Doug and I were getting ready to do our first show together. So Voice America had put me on hiatus for a month so I could get myself together. and my life together. And Doug and I were sitting there, and my friend Alicia Blickfeld, some of you know her around here. She's a beautiful, beautiful singer. And she's been on my show a couple times because she has survived cancer and she did it all naturally. And we had her on the show telling about what happened with her. And it was just amazing because she sat, I said, just sit here with me because I don't know if I can do this. And so she was there with me in person, but she was off camera. And Doug was on the other side. And I said, Doug, if I can't do this, you got to take it over, because I've been doing this for a long time, but my emotions were still very raw. And it was so crazy because that's the first time I'd done my show without Ken, and I could not get my mics to come on. To save my life, I had 2-minute countdown. I was like, what am I going to do? And Alicia's trying to figure out everything. Doug's trying to figure out what he can do on his end. Voice America's trying to figure out what they can do on their end. We literally were 30 seconds from starting the show. And I'm just praying that I will know what to do. And I literally heard Ken's voice say, Stephanie, turn on the switch. And I reached over and turned the power button on, and everything was on. That is another miracle. And these are the things that we have started noticing are these miracles in our lives. And even with, and I've talked to a lot of people that have lost a lot of loved ones or have gone through a lot with everything that's been happening. And I'm one of them. And we had amazing miracles happen while Ken was in the hospital. And knowing that he wasn't going to make it because he was so severely sick, so fast for somebody that was extremely healthy, did everything holistically and naturally. And here he's on his deathbed. It was just crazy what was happening. But I was really pulling on those miracles and watching the miracles and being aware of the miracles. And they could go on. And the fact that I got to stay in the hospital with him for the 3 days before he passed was a miracle to itself. We got to have really great conversations. And my story can go on and on and on. But I want to tell you that those miracles, I'm trying to be very, very aware of those miracles that are around us all the time. And it was very interesting because I had another friend that lost her husband the same week I did. And she just lived down around the corner from me, and she became a recluse. And one day I just felt like I needed to just make a big pot of soup and take it around to all my friends that were sick or shut in. And so I did. And I went to her house and visited with her. And it was really interesting because she's like, Stephanie, I'm not you. I can't do this like you're doing this. I can't do this. And I looked at her and I said, you know what? You are so fortunate that you have not gone through what I've gone through. And I said, everybody has their own trials, but I wouldn't be where I'm at or doing what I'm doing had I not gone through the trials that I've gone through. And they are trials, but they're also very important learning opportunities. And that's what has changed me being in St. George and really learning and working with some of the very best professionals around here. I've been so blessed to be around and surrounded by amazing people my whole life. And I am definitely one of the Parrish girls from Pocatello, Idaho. And anybody that knows our family knows we all grew up together on Parrish Lane, and all of us little Parrish girls before there was any boys. And we had an amazing, incredible family. And there was never excuses to not do your best or look for the best things. And that was something I learned definitely from my dad, my grandma, my uncles. We didn't have one set of parents, we had 5 sets of parents growing up, and just kind of want to push through this because as I was here in St. George and I started doing podcasts and I started doing radio and I was taking care of my clinic, and I got to be interviewed a few times. And one of the things that I was interviewed on was being married to a gentleman that was a great man for 30 years, but he was very, very mentally ill and suffered from suicide attempts many times. And that was one of the shows that we did with one of my friends on podcast while I was here. And I didn't realize the impact and how many other people were suffering from that same thing that I did for many, many years, being scared to death to walk into the house for fear of what I'd find, and making my children stay in the car till I could go in and find out if everything was okay. It was very difficult. It was a very, very hard time. And I look back on it and think, I'm so grateful for the learning opportunities I had, because hopefully me being able to talk about it, me being able to share that experience, let them know they're not alone. They're not alone. This is not about you. This is not about you. We do the best we can with the circumstances and situations we're dealt. And then there comes a time where you just need to step away, because it is not your fault or your responsibility. And that was very, very difficult for me to do with 6 children, to step away, because I knew every time he would try suicide, it was blamed upon me and my children. And it was like, I can't take that any longer. I have too much to give, and I need to be able to do something else with my life that is positive. And it turned out to be a very, very difficult situation, but it was also a very good thing for me, because I was able to help other people. I've helped a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people that just don't know what to do with their situations, and everybody's are different. Everybody's situations are different. We just need to look for the miracles. And those miracles for me come every day. Every day that I would wake up and he was still alive, or that I would wake up and my children were still there, or just so many different things that we're just like, wow, that was a miracle, even though it doesn't feel like it. And sometimes they're very, very difficult, but those learning opportunities have brought me to where I am right now. And they've been able to set it up so that I can do what I'm doing right now. And that is absolutely vital. And it's interesting, because I'm in the middle of writing a book, and it's called From Tragedy to Triumph, From Love to Loss. And I've been through a lot of tragedies, and I've been able to triumph over them. And I finally had found love, and I lost it. And I was so afraid that I wouldn't find it again. And I just want to touch on this really quickly, because right after Ken passed away, before he passed away, we were in the hospital, and he was saying, Steph, I don't want you to be alone. I want you to find somebody. And I'm like, I've only had you for 2.5 years. I finally have a man that I know what love is all about, and how to treat each other, and what a good marriage is supposed to be. And you're leaving me. It just didn't make any sense. I couldn't wrap my head around it, but I kept trying to figure out, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? I did get 2.5 years of magic, and I'm so grateful for that. And sitting in the hospital, we had the opportunity to talk about the fact that he wanted me to be married. He didn't want me to be alone. He wanted me to find somebody, and that he would help me. And after he passed away, there was 2 or 3 times that I very much felt him next to me. And I very much felt the fact that he was helping me and was going to help guide somebody towards me. And I'm sitting here going, I don't want to do the singles thing. I don't want to be alone. Can't do the singles thing and not be alone. And it was just crazy. It was just one of those things that I was again going, okay, Lord, what am I supposed to learn from this? And what am I supposed to take out of this? And it was just very interesting, because I was just trying to wrap my head around the fact that I just lost my husband. I just lost my best friend. I only had him for 2.5 years, and now he's gone. And finally in October, I thought, okay, I'm going to have to do this dating thing again, which I wasn't super thrilled about doing, but I'm going to have to do this dating thing again, and just praying that everything will work out. And it was really interesting, because it did. And through lots of prayer and lots of fasting, and it was just amazing, because I told Heavenly Father, these are the things I need. Boom, boom, boom. And I just moved to Southern Idaho, and I established my business. I was doing my show. I was doing my hyperbaric, and I didn't want to leave. I knew I was brought there for a reason, and I knew I wasn't supposed to leave. So who is going to move to where I live as opposed to me moving to where they live? It was definitely something that was weighing on the back of my mind. And again, I was asking for miracles. I was watching for miracles. I had met somebody online, and we had just met for a very brief moment. And he's like, I'm leaving to go for Thanksgiving, and I'll talk to you when I get back. And he was gone for weeks. And one day in December, I finally said, what happened to that guy? So I sent a message to him and he sent one back to me and he's like, can we talk? So we ended up talking every day. And there was little miracles that happened. And I knew that Ken was watching out for me. And this gentleman, his wife had passed away this last year as well. And he felt her presence very much also. And we both had talked about those miracles of how can we feel the presence of our spouses in bringing us together. And there was a few times that I would hear him say something and I could have swore it was Ken's voice and his words. And there was a few times I was choked up. So for me, those were miracles that were happening going, he is very much in this, and Heavenly Father knows this is what I've asked for. And his name is John. And as we got talking, he's like, I'm okay selling my house and moving where you are. And I'm like, done deal. If you're willing to come to where I'm at, let's do it. So anyway, it was just a very whirlwind romance that we just knew was right. Both of us knew it was right. We were married a few months ago and we have felt our spouses with us so many times. And it was just a beautiful thing. Again, we look at the miracles that happened through all of that. And it has just been kind of mind-blowing. but on the other hand, we are so blessed and so grateful for the trials that we've had, the learning experiences that we've had, and that we've been brought together. And neither one of us wanted to be alone. And he was sitting on his couch with the big C word. And one day at the end of October, and he got the impression that he needed to start looking and that he needed to go someplace in the mountains by a lake. And when we started talking, I'm like, I have mountains and I have a lake. So when he got there to meet me finally in person, he's like, yeah, this is the place. This is where I'm supposed to be. So there was just all sorts of miracles. And what I really am asking you guys all to listen to out there is know that there's hope. There is hope in everything. Don't give up. And everything is just happening right now in the world that's just crazy. It's just insane. And we really want you to make sure that you don't ever give up hope, because there's always hope no matter what. And it doesn't matter what you're dealing with. There's always hope. And through that hope, if you learn to recognize the miracles, even the small miracles, the fact that I get to be right here in St. George today is a miracle. And I got to be in Phoenix the whole last week. That's a miracle because I've got so much else going on. And being able to interview and talk to people from all over the world has just been an absolute miracle for me. And I don't know what that says. Anyway, it's just been a blessing for us. And I want you guys to understand, and please look for those miracles. They can be just so small and so minute that you're going, whoa. Like we got in the chiropractor today. He's so busy. I said, we're going to only be in town for a few hours. This is what we need. Can you get us in? And he did. And so what I'm asking, and I'm encouraging you guys to ask for those miracles and then be willing to accept them as miracles, accept them as being right there for you. I'll tell you, when my books come out, you guys are gonna be going, whoa. And I know everybody else has stories to tell too. But for me, being able to do this international radio show and still being able to help people with the hyperbaric oxygen therapy and the light therapy, and to be able to see somebody that's been told they'd never walk again, walk, and to see somebody that has been told that they are going to die in 10 days or 20 days and they don't, and they become healthy, to be able to just be able to have somebody come in and say they just feel good being here. And that's, for me, that is just a miracle in and of itself. It's like if we can create a space where miracles are welcome and miracles are accepted and everything is a miracle. I can't tell you how many people I've had come into my clinic and say, I prayed for you. I asked for you, and here you are. And I tell them, I pray for you every day. Bring the people to us that need our help and let us help them. And with all of the wonderful things that are going on and that we have happening in our lives, with all the crazy things that are going on as well, We want to make sure that you are looking for that hope and you are looking for those miracles because they are there. And I know that there's a lot of you out there listening and you probably have questions for us. So we're going to bring Kyle back on and he's going to join us again. Hi, Kyle.
Hey, Stephanie. Hey, wow, what a story. So many things. And, like you said it a couple of times, we all have our stories, we all have our challenges, we all go through the difficult times. You've been able to rise above and to find the joy and the hope and the healing and the miracles. It just so happens that Stephanie, you and I share a faith, but it's not about that particular faith, or even whether you feel like you have faith in God, or you call it the universe or that higher power or whatever it is. The miracles are there. The miracles are there. And the
Absolutely.
key is to find them and to recognize them. We do have several questions, and I want to jump right into those because, as I said at the beginning, we want this to be about those who have tuned in. The first one, do you think that gratitude is a factor in recognizing miracles?
Oh, I absolutely do. It's just like the near car accident we almost had. It's like, oh, thank you that there wasn't a car next to us. We were so grateful that we were able to get out of the way because I would have been crunched. He was coming fast. And when we pulled over, it's like, first, always have gratitude, always have gratitude, always have Thanksgiving in your heart. And then you can start looking for the miracles. So absolutely good question. I think that's very, very important to be able to understand that gratitude is vital. And people can go through just horrific things. And if I was talking to a guy the other day that's been paralyzed for years, but he's like, hey, I can get up and ride in my wheelchair, and he was just so grateful that he could get up and ride in his wheelchair. What a great attitude, right? Attitude of gratitude.
Absolutely. And I think it's important. You touched on to recognize that gratitude is a choice. I mean, it's a decision that we make. So I love it. Let me share a couple of these other questions that have come in. As you've studied hope and healing, have you learned of any scientific connection between a hopeful, optimistic attitude and improved health?
Yes, there is a lot of studies out there that show that if you've got the right attitude, it can definitely help in your healing. And that's a great question that was brought up because there's a lot of my clients that I have had come in and physically their bodies are getting well. They're physically getting well. They're able to do things they haven't been able to do, but yet they're telling me they're not getting well. And there's been multiple times I've sat these clients down in my office and said, do you want to get well? And I have literally had people tell me no. And once we start digging a little bit deeper, I had a client tell me that she had stage 4 cancer. She had it before her husband said he'd take care of her to get her all better. And then he died of a heart attack. And she's like, he's not here to take care of me. I said, but your 4 daughters brought you in here. So you need to have a reevaluation of that thought process. I said, you only have 10 days left coming into me. So let's see what we can do. Because once she shifted that change in her thought process, it went away. She did extremely well and is still doing extremely well. We find that a lot. It's like, you've got to have a right attitude or you're going to stay stuck.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other things on that too. And I'd love to point this out too, being in the business I've been in for a long, long time. I'm not a medical expert. I do not do medical stuff. I'm support system to the body repairing itself. But I've also very much realized that people that have got severe issues, it doesn't matter what they are, especially ones that, one of my favorite things is when they come in and say the doctors don't have a clue. It's like, well, okay, let's just put the tools in your body, which is light, oxygen, nutrition, microcirculation, see what your body can do. That's what God made our bodies to do, or a higher entity, or whoever's out there, that higher power. Let's put the tools in your body and see what your body can do. And usually I find out that those people have had some kind of a major trauma in their life, and their body has just been holding onto it. If there is a traumatic situation that's happened, it can be simply something, not simply as losing an animal or being in a car accident or being molested or whatever's happening through the divorces and things that are happening right now, any of that stuff, if you're not taking care of that and getting that cleaned up, then it is going to manifest in your health. That's just a given.
Yeah.
So there's a lot, and a lot of that comes, as you said, from the gratitude. You got to be grateful for those things, and then things just kind of start cleared up. We have a better attitude.
I love it. Thank you. That's so important. Here's another question, and I think this is another important one. When life is hard, and sometimes life is hard and everything seems to be going badly, how can we learn to see the little miracles? We've talked about making sure we see them, but is there a process? How do we learn to see the miracles?
That's a great question too, because that is one of the things people ask me all the time. How do I see them? How do I see them? And my co-host, Doug Crockett, he taught me a couple years ago when I first met him to get on. He's got an alarm on his phone at 9:00 at night. And every night he goes on there and tells his 4 miracles that have happened that day, or his gratitude journal, 4 things that have happened. And they can be simply, I got up and brushed my teeth this morning. That when you can't do that. And I look at people that, I've got a cerebral palsy girl I've just been working with that's 42 years old, that's never walked in her life. And she was able to stand up next to my chamber, my hyperbaric chamber, and took a couple steps. She started kissing the chamber. And she couldn't speak either because she couldn't hear, but she kept saying, love you, love you, love you. We take those things for such granted. So if we can have gratitude for those little things, and I think that's definitely where it starts. You just write them down, get a gratitude journal, write it down each day. Whatever you think is the simple thing. And you may not feel like there's anything that's been grateful for that day, because sometimes they're really hard. But if you can even just find something, I smiled at somebody today, or somebody smiled back at me today, or I was able to pull out on the highway without 50 cars in front of me. Find something to be grateful for. Then you'll start recognizing them. They've got to start small. Then you'll start recognizing them.
Yeah, I love it. Great advice. Another question that came in. Can you tell us just a little more about light therapy? Is it something that is used for specific ailments, or is it for general wellness?
I love my lights. We use the lights on everything. It's been amazing because I use polychromatic light, which is medical grade light therapy. And it's been really fun because I literally have put them on the skin surface, which is the C setting on there. And I've literally watched cuts close in front of my eyes. It's the craziest thing. But I've also worked with people, you can set them all the way to deep tissue, into heart, to lungs, to liver. And what I do in my chamber is called targeted hyperbaric. So I put the lights on the clients as they're in the chamber. So what the lights do is dilate the blood vessels so that the blood can flow. So you can target them anywhere. If you've got a bad shoulder, if you've got kidneys. I've been working a lot with people with the big C, the CO, with their lungs not being able to breathe. So I'll put one in the front, one in the back, and sandwich their lungs. And when they're in that chamber and that blood is finally flowing and they're getting saturated with all that incredible hyperbaric oxygen therapy, their lungs can start to repair. And I've had so many clients go, I can finally breathe. I can finally breathe. And eventually they end up getting off of their oxygen that they're on, because their lungs can repair. So the light is so, so vital. One thing I know we're getting short on time, but I want people to think about, back in pre-Noah time, the whole earth had 40% plus oxygen. So people were breathing so much more oxygen, and they were living to 800, 900 years old, right? And the light was pure sunlight. It didn't have to filter through all this garbage that's out in the atmosphere now. It was pure light. We don't have that anymore. We're down to almost 19% from 40% oxygen. And you cannot get the right light through the sun because you can't get it through all the filters it has to go through. So when they come into the clinic and you can put that light that mimics the pure sunlight without any damaging problems, you can give the oxygen like it was back when the earth was full of oxygen. It's amazing what your body can do. That's how our bodies were created. So yes, for the light, you can do it for both. You can do it just for relaxation. We've got different settings that are just for relaxation. A lot of the B setting is for just breathing and calming, all the way to tissue and bone. We've had broken bones that have healed very, very quickly coming and doing the therapies that we've done. So the lights are vital. I love my lights. Use them for everything.
I love it. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying a little bit about that. A couple of other questions, unless others have questions, please feel free to go ahead and throw those questions in the Q&A or in the comments on your Facebook Live. We've talked a little bit about this, but just maybe kind of emphasize, can you recommend any tools to help someone who has lost hope to find it again?
That's a very, very good question. I love that because I deal with that a lot. I felt like I was losing hope for a long time. It's like, I cannot keep doing this life that I have been given. I can't keep doing this. I had 6 children. I was trying to keep alive and keep going and trying to keep a husband alive. And I lost me in that process.
Yeah.
And it took me 30 years to finally go. I finally had very, very clear vision that, Stephanie, you deserve happiness. You're done. And it took me figuring that out. Nobody can do this for you. So my recommendation is listen to really good, soft, cleansing music. Music can touch the heart. Write your gratitude journal. It's up to you to start noticing those things. Nobody else can do it for you. They may be able to point them out, but you have to feel them. And if you are asking that question and you are on this show right now, you have made your first step. You truly have made your first step. So find things that are good and find things that are wholesome and find things that are going to fill your spirit. If you're not feeling lifted, get rid of it. Find something else that's going to help you feel lifted. And there's a lot of people out there, a lot of resources.
Yeah, love it. It's such good advice. Surround yourself with goodness, right?
Right.
Whatever that means to you, surround yourself with goodness. I like that. Again, just great applicable advice. Last question, as of right now, unless something else comes in. She says, what spiritual gifts have you recognized now in your life as you look back on the chapters in your earlier life that support you now?
That's a great question too. Thank you for that one. I have been blessed to have an incredible family and been surrounded by incredible families. And a lot of people haven't. And I know that it took a long time for me to appreciate the fact that I grew up with all the little parish girls on the same street together and nobody knew who was whose. And that has become a huge, huge benefit in my life because every year we all get together. And last year there was 52 of us. So, all girls, just girls. And being able to really recognize, and all of us have to go on our own journey. And some people will find, the things that they're doing now just aren't working, obviously. So you've got to find something else that will work for you. And for me, being able to, I remember as first grade, I was given the opportunity to sing a solo at our big school production. And I was doing Baby Elephant Walk. And I'd been singing since I was 3, singing and dancing since I was 3. But this is the first time I'd done a solo without my sisters. And I remember getting up there and I froze. And I walked off the stage in tears. And I remember my mom, in all of her kindnesses and wonderfulness, saying, don't you ever do that again. You never turn down an opportunity to perform and share the talents that God's given you. Don't ever do that. And, for me, that was such a blessing. Also, I look back at it as that miracle because I haven't turned those opportunities down. And I've been able to sing and perform all over the world. And I've been able to do what I'm doing now because of those experiences. So yes, for me, it's you just have to learn to recognize those things and being raised with a good foundation. And if you haven't been raised with a good foundation, start now. Start now. Find out what is actually working for you. If there's something that's pulling you down or something that's not building you up or helping you feel better, you don't need to be around that. You need to find something else. And sometimes that's very, very, very hard to walk away from those situations because we feel obligated. I felt extremely obligated. That was my responsibility. And then one day I realized I do have a responsibility to myself, and I cannot continue doing what I'm doing. And that's what brought me back from Canada. I was up there for 3 years. I met wonderful, wonderful people, but my situation was horrific in my eyes. But look what happened because of it. So again, that was 3 years of incredible learning opportunity. And this is what I got from it. This is another stepping stone for me because of the situations I've been through. So don't ever try to judge yourself on anybody else, ever, because nobody's been through what you've been through.
Yeah, great advice. Stephanie, thank you for joining us today, for sharing your story, for sharing a little bit of hope, a little bit of gratitude, sharing some miracles. These are messages that we all can connect with and relate to and need in our lives.
Yes.
So we're so grateful for your time. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, all you listeners out there. Appreciate you.
For sure. And we do want to thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed today's webinar, be sure that you share it with your friends. We have a whole library of Living Your Best Life webinar episodes that are available on our website. That is at seniorgames.net. We also want to make sure that everyone knows that this presentation will be available to rewatch at seniorgames.net. Be sure to join us next month when we try to take the mystery out of financial planning. It all takes place on Wednesday, May 26th, 2022. And once again, be sure to check seniorgames.net for details. And until we meet again, get out there and live your best life. Thank you, everyone.